Welcome to Crisis in Perception, where we examine the systems shaping our world one book at a time.
Today, we are taking on a titan. We're looking at a text that is arguably the most famous in the Western canon, and yet it might be the most misunderstood.
At least through our particular lens.
Exactly. When you look at it through the lens of systems thinking, we are talking, of course, about William Shakespeare's Hamlet.
Okay, before everyone listening has a flashback to high school English class, smelling the floor wax and worrying about memorizing a soliloquy, stick with us.
Please do.
Because this deep dive is not about a sad prince wearing black who can't make up his mind. We are not here to psychoanalyze Hamlet's relationship with his mother, and we are definitely not going to write an essay on whether he was actually mad or just faking it.
No, we're zooming out, way out. We are looking at the state of Denmark itself. We're stripping away the family drama label to look at the machinery of the government, the operating system of the court.
Because when you really read the notes and the history, this isn't just a tragedy about a dysfunctional family. It's a case study of a broken organization, a state in crisis.
It is. And we are asking a very specific systemic question today. How do surveillance, information asymmetry, and legitimacy crises transform uncertainty into paralysis, allowing corrupt systems to persist?
That is a massive question, transforming uncertainty into paralysis. That sounds like my entire Tuesday afternoon.
That sounds like modern life, doesn't it? But it completely reframes the play. We usually hear about Hamlet's tragic flaw.
Right, his hesitation.
Indecisiveness.
The idea that he hesitates, he delays, he overthinks. We blame him for not acting. But what if that's the wrong way to look at it? What if we look at the environment he's operating in?
The system.
The system. And we see something very different. We see a rotten state system. A place where the walls literally have ears. A place where no one can act because no one can trust the data they're getting.
So you're saying the paralysis isn't a bug in Hamlet's character, it's a feature of the system he's in. It's the logical output of the system. And that's the real stake here. We are treating Hamlet as a case study in systemic failure. We're looking for patterns and structures, not offering moral prescriptions or character judgments. We want to understand how a system designed for security ends up creating a situation where the only possible outcome is total collapse.
So let's unpack this. And to understand the system inside the play, I was surprised to see in the research that we have to start with the system outside the play, the actual environment where people first saw this thing, the Elizabethan theater.
Yes, you absolutely have to. You have to look at the architecture of the performance itself to get what Shakespeare was doing.
I think most of us have this mental image of the Globe Theater. Maybe we saw the movie Shakespeare in Love, or we've seen pictures. It's that round building with the open roof.
Wooden O, as Shakespeare called it in Henry V. But let's really place ourselves there for a second to understand the psychology.
Yeah.
It's, say, 1601. You're at the Globe. It's not a polite, quiet theater like Broadway today. You don't have assigned seats and ushers shushing you.
No, it's loud, right? And smelly. People are eating and drinking.
Very smelly. You had the groundlings, the people who paid a single penny standing in the yard right up against the stage. They are exposed to the rain, the sun, the mud. Then you have the galleries, the roof sections with seats for the wealthier patrons. But here is the crucial thing, systemically speaking. The lighting.
Or the lack of it.
Well, the lack of artificial control. These performances happened in the afternoon. Daylight. There were no spotlights to focus your attention, and crucially, there was no way to darken the house. The lights were always on, for everyone.
So you can see the actors, but you can also see the guy standing next to you chewing on a meat pie.
And the guy across the theater. And the rich nobles in the boxes. Visibility was total. The actors could see the audience could see the actors, but, and this is the key systemic insight, the audience could see each other.
It's a surveillance environment.
It's a panopticon.
Whoa, pause. You dropped the word panopticon. I know that's usually used in prison design, right? Where the guard in a central tower can see everyone, but no one can see the guard. How does that fit a theater?
Well, strictly speaking, a panopticon is about the sensation of being watched. In a prison, you behave because you might be watched at any moment. In the Globe, it's even more direct. You're actually being watched constantly from all angles. It created an environment of mutual surveillance.
So you are watching a play about a court Elsinore, where everyone is watching everyone else.
While you are standing in a theater where you are being watched by your neighbors, by the authorities, by everyone, the medium is the message. The structure of the building reinforces the paranoia of the play.
That is so meta.
And it goes deeper. The source notes mention the private theaters, like Blackfriars, which were indoors and used candlelight. But even there, the artificiality was ramped up. And then you have the casting.
The boy actors.
Right. In Elizabethan England, women were not allowed on the public stage. It was illegal. So every female role, Ophelia, Gertrude, Lady Macbeth, was played by a boy or a young man whose voice hadn't fully changed yet.
Which adds this whole other layer of, I guess, fake news to the visual.
It adds a layer of structural deception. Think about what the audience is processing. You are watching a boy pretending to be a woman, Ophelia, who is then instructed by her father to pretend to be natural and innocent in a conversation with Hamlet, who is himself pretending to be mad, all while being spied on by her father and the king.
My head is spinning.
The medium itself establishes that performance and disguise are the baseline reality. In the theater, what you see is never exactly what is real. And in Denmark, as we will see, that rule is absolute. Everyone is playing a role.
Speaking of things not being what they seem, I went down a rabbit hole in the notes he sent over about the text itself, the actual script of Hamlet. I think I always assumed that Shakespeare sat down, wrote Hamlet, printed it out, and that's the book we buy at the bookstore.
Laughs. If only it were that simple. This is one of the most fascinating parts of the scholarship, and it's crucial for our systems analysis. There is no single Hamlet.
Right. There are these quartos and the folio. Can you break that down? What is a quarto?
A quarto is basically a small, cheap paperback pamphlet. It's a single play folded up. The first quarto, or Q1, was published in 1603. And scholars for a long time have called it the bad quarto.
The bad quarto. Is it just a rough draft? Or full of typos?
It's worse than a rough draft. It's like a bootleg copy recorded by someone with a really bad memory. The leading theory is memorial reconstruction.
Meaning?
Essentially, a minor actor, maybe the guy who played Marcellus or a guard, tried to write down the entire play from memory to sell it or perform it illegally in the countryside.
So they didn't have the script. They just had what this guy remembered hearing the other actors say every night.
Exactly. And the result is, well, it's hilarious. You know the famous soliloquy, to be or not to be?
To be or not to be, that is the question.
Right. In the bad quarto, it goes something like, to be or not to be? There's the point.
To die, to sleep, is that all?
There's the point. It sounds like a guy trying to explain the play to his buddy at a bar after 3 beers.
Yeah.
You know, the thing about being or not being, that's the point, man.
It completely loses the nuance, the poetry, the philosophical depth. But here's why this matters for our systems analysis. We also have the second quarto from 1604, which is much longer and more philosophical. And then we have the first folio from 1623, which is different again. Lines appear in one and vanish in another. Entire scenes are moved around.
So the text itself is unstable. There's no single source of truth.
The truth of the document is slippery. If we view this through our systems lens, this textual instability perfectly mirrors the political instability of the play. There is no single objective record of what happened in Elsinore. There are only competing versions, conflicting accounts.
It's like trying to reconstruct a crime scene when the police report, the witness testimony, and the security footage all show slightly different things. Exactly. And in that gap between versions, that's where the paralysis sets in. That's where doubt lives.
Which is the perfect segue into the world of Elsinore itself. Because in that court, language isn't used to tell the truth. It's used to signal status. It's a tool. It's a weapon.
It is. And the source highlights a specific speech by Claudius, the new king to Laertes, Polonius' son, right in the second scene. It's a masterclass in political manipulation. If you just look closely at the grammar, you see exactly how he operates.
This is the part where he keeps switching his pronouns, right? I remember reading this note and thinking, wow, this guy is slimy.
He is incredibly skilled. He starts with the royal we. He says things like, you told us of some suit. He is speaking as the institution, the crown. He is reminding Laertes and everyone listening, I am the state, I am power.
But then he shifts. He gets personal.
He does. He wants to ingratiate himself with Laertes. He wants Laertes to like him, to be loyal to him personally, not just the crown he stole. So he switches to the intimate. What shall not be my offer, not thy asking. He moves from the formal you to the intimate thou.
That is so classic corporate maneuvering. It's like the boss who says, the company requires this, and then leans in and says, but hey, between you and me, buddy, what can I do for you?
It's pure status signaling. In Elsinore, language is a tool for power consolidation. It's not about communication, it's about positioning. Claudius is cementing his legitimacy, which we know is shaky as hell because he murdered his way to the throne, by verbally pulling his allies closer and pushing his enemies, like Hamlet, away.
So we have a physical environment of surveillance in the theater, an unstable text with no single truth, and characters weaponizing grammar to manage perception. Let's get into the core systems analysis, the mechanics of the corruption in Denmark.
Let's start with the system design itself. If we were to draw a diagram of Elsinore, the default condition, the baseline state, is surveillance.
It really is a prison of eyes, and I want to talk about Polonius, because in high school, I feel like Polonius is often played as this funny, bumbling old man who gives bad advice. But when you look at what he actually does, he's terrifying.
He is the Lord Chamberlain. He's the chief bureaucrat, the head of the intelligence service. And you're right, he is often played for laughs, but his actions are deeply sinister. Look at how he treats his own son, Laertes.
The Ronaldo scene, this is usually cut from the movies, right? It feels like a weird detour.
Almost always, because it doesn't advance the main Hamlet-Claudius plot. But it is absolutely essential for understanding the system. Polonius sends a spy, Reynaldo, to Paris to track Laertes.
But he doesn't just say follow him or see who he's hanging out with.
No, this is the detail that reveals the system's logic. It's so much more perverse than that. He tells Ronaldo to go to Paris and spread lies about Laertes. He says, imply that he's gambling, imply that he's drinking, that he's fencing, swearing, quarreling, even visiting brothels.
Wait, he wants the spy to trash his own son's reputation. Why on earth would he do that?
To see if people agree. The logic is, your bait of falsehood takes this carp of truth. He believes that by telling a lie, he will provoke the listener into revealing the truth. Oh, yes, I saw Laertes stumbling out of a bar yesterday. Or better yet, no, he wasn't doing that. He was studying.
That is twisted. It's the helicopter parent from hell, but it's also a surveillance state tactic. It's entrapment.
It establishes that in this system, truth is obtained through deception. You cannot just ask, how is my son? You have to engineer a scenario, a test. You use indirections to find directions out.
And it's not just the kids being watched. The king and Polonius literally hide behind curtains, the harassed to spy on Hamlet and Ophelia.
Think about the incentive structure there. Why are they doing it? Claudius, the king, has stolen his position. He murdered his brother. His incentive is purely to secure that stolen power. He needs to know if Hamlet knows. He is deeply paranoid.
And Polonius, is he just a busybody, or is he trying to protect his daughter?
He needs to prove his utility. He's the aging functionary. He has to show the new king, I'm valuable, I can get you the data you need, I can explain why the prince is acting crazy. It's because he's in love with my daughter. See, I'm useful. His survival depends on being the man with the answers.
But the outcome of all this spying, it doesn't actually produce truth, does it? That's the irony that just screams from the page.
No, and this is the critical system failure. Surveillance produces performance. When Hamlet realizes he is being watched, and he realizes it very early on, he adopts the antic disposition. He pretends to be mad.
So the surveillance system creates this perfect, toxic feedback loop. The king spies to see if Hamlet is dangerous. Hamlet acts crazy because he knows he's being spied on. The king sees the crazy act and thinks, wow, he's really unstable. This is dangerous. I better spy on him more.
Precisely. When you are watched, you cannot be yourself. You must perform. This means the ruler at the center of the system is receiving bad data. He sees only the mask, never the face. He thinks he's seeing a madman, but he's actually seeing a perfect mirror of his own paranoia.
Which is a perfect setup for the second major constraint in this system, information asymmetry. Because if the king is getting bad data on Hamlet, Hamlet is dealing with some pretty questionable data himself.
The source notes describe Hamlet's world as being preeminently in the interrogative mood.
Which means?
It's a world of questions. Think about the very first line of the play. It's not a grand statement. It's not once upon a time. It's a sentry shouting into the freezing dark, who's there?
And the answer isn't a name. It's another question. Nay, answer me. Stand and unfold yourself. It's paranoid from the very first second. Everyone is jumpy.
That paranoia stems from a lack of verified information. And the biggest, most destabilizing source of information asymmetry is, of course, the ghost.
Okay, let's talk about the ghost. Because, again, for a modern audience, we watch a movie, we see a ghost, we think, okay, ghosts are real in this movie's universe. Hamlet's dad is back. Go get him, tiger. But it wasn't that simple for Shakespeare's audience, was it?
Not at all. This is the ultimate ghost in the machine of the system. In the Elizabethan worldview, the nature of a spirit was a massive theological and political debate.
Because of the Protestant Reformation.
Exactly. England had swung violently from Catholic to Protestant. In Catholic theology, ghosts could be souls from purgatory, coming back to ask for prayers or finish earthly business. That was a known category. But the Protestant church had abolished purgatory. They said when you die, you go to heaven or hell, period.
So if you see a ghost,
It can't be a soul from purgatory because purgatory doesn't exist anymore, officially. So it's either a hallucination, a figment of your grief-stricken mind, or
a demon.
a goblin damned, a devil from hell that has taken on the appearance of your beloved father to trick you into committing a mortal sin, specifically to trick you into despair or regicide, which would damn your soul for eternity.
So Hamlet receives this massive piece of intelligence. Your uncle murdered your father. Avenge me. But he can't verify the source. It could be a whistleblower, or it could be a phishing scam from hell.
Right. Is it his loving father? Or is it a demon trying to drag his soul to hell by making him kill an anointed king? That is an incredibly high-stakes risk.
And he can't exactly go to the palace archives and check the coroner's report.
The official channels of information, the court, the public records, are corrupted. They are controlled by the murderer. They say the old king died of a snake bite while sleeping in his garden. The hidden information from the ghost says murder. Hamlet is stuck in the middle, in this zone of profound uncertainty.
This changes my view of his delay completely. I always thought he was just waffling, but he's actually trying to verify data in a totally compromised system.
He is being rational. If you act without perfect information in a high-stakes system committing regicide, plunging the country into civil war, that's not heroic. That is recklessness.
This is why he sets up the mousetrap, isn't it? The play within a play. It's not just a clever theatrical device, it's a data verification tool.
It's his only option. He is running a simulation. He engineers a performance that mirrors the crime as the ghost described it, and he uses Horatio as a second observer. He puts the crime on stage to watch Claudius's reaction. He needs an external, observable reaction to triangulate the ghost's truth.
The play's the thing wherein I'll catch the conscience of the king. It's an A/B test. It's a psychological experiment.
It is. He's running a diagnostic on the system's core.
So we have surveillance causing performance and bad data causing delay. But underneath all of this is the fundamental issue of legitimacy. Because even if Hamlet proves that the king did it, the king is still the king.
This is the engine driving the corruption. Claudius is described in the source as a king of shreds and patches, a usurper. Hamlet calls him that. The source also contrasts him with the dead king Hyperion versus a satyr.
Hyperion being a sun god and a satyr being
a lustful, drunken goat man. It's a brutal comparison. It's the ideal versus the degraded reality.
But the court accepts him. That's what always gets me. Rosencrantz, Guildenstern, Polonius, they all just fall in line immediately. Why?
Because the system protects the office, not the validity of the person holding it. This is a crucial distinction in systems theory. The courtiers align with the position of the king. Their incentive is survival and proximity to power. It doesn't matter who sits on the throne, as long as the throne itself remains a source of patronage.
So if you're Rosencrantz or Guildenstern, you don't care if Claudius killed his brother. You care that Claudius signs your paycheck and keeps your head attached to your neck.
Exactly. They rely on the sovereign power for their existence. Their loyalty isn't to a person, it's to the power structure.
Which creates a deep cynicism. It's why Hamlet is so disgusted with everyone. He sees that the fountains of justice are poisoned at the source, and everyone else is just drinking the water like nothing's wrong.
And this brings us to that feedback loop of testing and counter-testing. The whole play feels like everyone is just running tests on everyone else, constantly. It is an infinite verification loop. The king tests Hamlet by sending his old school friends, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. Hamlet tests the king with the play. Polonius tests Ophelia's loyalty by using her as bait. Laertes is tested by Claudius later on. It's a series of probes.
And the result isn't action, it's paralysis.
The source quotes that famous line. The native hue of resolution is sicklied o'er with the pale cast of thought. Instead of revenge or justice, the characters are stuck in a perpetual cycle of gathering evidence. They are processing data instead of executing commands.
And the system never actually fixes itself, does it? It doesn't reform. No one sits down and says, hey guys, this is all very suspicious. Let's form a committee and investigate the snakebite.
No. This is the bleakest part of the system's analysis. The system is too corrupted to self-correct. It requires a total crash. It has to be rebooted by force.
Let's talk about that crash, the ending. Because in the movies, it's all exciting sword fighting. But structurally, it's a massacre.
It's a total system collapse. A blue screed of death for the Danish court. Think about the body count in that final scene. It's not just the villain who dies.
It's everybody. Claudius, the illegitimate king. Gertrude, the queen who enabled him. Laertes, the agent of revenge. And Hamlet, the rightful heir and the system's glitch.
Everyone connected to the corrupted node dies. The violence wipes the slate clean. It's the only way to purge the poison.
And who takes over? Fortinbras, the guy from Norway.
Fortinbras is a fascinating character because he's barely in the play. He's Hamlet's foil.
He's the guy who marches his army across Denmark in Act 4 to fight for a tiny, worthless piece of land in Poland. And Hamlet watches him and has a whole soliloquy about it.
Yes, how all occasions do inform against me. He sees Fortinbras, this man of decisive, maybe even reckless action, and compares it to his own thoughtful paralysis. Fortinbras doesn't overthink. He conquers. He represents pure, unthinking will.
So the play ends with Fortinbras just walking into the throne room, seeing a pile of dead Danish royals, and basically saying, well, looks like I'm in charge now.
I have some rights of memory in this kingdom, which I now claim. He claims the throne immediately, and the English ambassadors arrive to say Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. Order is restored.
But not by the system healing itself. It's restored by a hostile takeover. The system was replaced.
It created a power vacuum that was immediately filled by the nearest available strongman. It's a system reset, but without any internal reform. It suggests that when a system becomes paralyzed by its own corruption, complexity, and distrust, it becomes incredibly vulnerable to crude external force.
That is heavy. Okay, I want to map this out explicitly for the listeners just so we can see the whole board. Let's look at the actors in the system one more time.
All right. At the top, you have the ruler Claudius. His function is to maintain power through secrecy and perception management. The source uses the imagery of poison constantly. He poured poison in his brother's ear, he metaphorically poisons the state with his lies, and he literally poisons the cup and the sword at the end. He is the corruption source.
Then you have the agent, that's Polonius.
The bureaucrat. The functionary who believes that surveillance produces truth. His famous line, by indirections find directions out, perfectly encapsulates the surveillance state mindset. He thinks if he just spies enough, gathers enough data, he can control the chaos.
Then there's the glitch, Hamlet.
Hamlet is the anomaly. He sees the corruption. He refuses to play along with the managed perception of the court. But, and this is key, he is bound by the system's rules. He is a prince, so he believes in monarchy. He is a Christian student from Wittenberg, so he fears the canon against self-slaughter. He can't just burn it all down immediately. He's trapped inside the logic of the system he's trying to fix.
And finally, the tools. Rosencrantz, Guildenstern, Ophelia.
Innocent or willing instruments used to probe the glitch. They are expendable. The system uses them to extract information, and when they fail or know too much, the system discards them. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are literally sent to their deaths with a letter they can't even read. They are tools who don't even know their own function.
It's brutal efficiency.
This system protecting itself.
Let's look at the incentives again. You mentioned legitimacy versus truth.
The system's primary incentive is to prioritize appearance over reality. Think about Claudius's opening speech. He balances grief for his brother with joy for his marriage. It's a PR masterclass in spin. The incentive is to maintain that smooth surface. To conduct a public inquiry into the old king's death would destabilize the realm. So truth is suppressed to maintain order.
And for the others, like the courtiers, the incentive is just survival.
Rosencrantz and Guildenstern basically say they obey because the life of the king sustains the lives of everyone else. Their well-being is tied to the sovereign power. They don't help the king because they like him. They help him because he is the life support system for their status.
And this creates the feedback loops we talked about. Suspicion leads to monitoring. Monitoring leads to performance. Performance leads to more suspicion.
And this loop, for a while, stabilizes the corruption. It keeps it in a holding pattern. Nothing gets resolved, but nothing blows up either. It keeps the rottenness contained until the pressure becomes too great, the mousetrap play, and the system explodes.
Why does it last so long, though? Why doesn't someone just leave or blow the whistle?
Because the cost of exiting the system is death, or treason, which is death. You can't just resign from the court of Elsinore and go work for a competitor. The persistence of dysfunction happens because the cost of staying in moral decay, complicity, is still lower day to day than the immediate certain cost of challenging the power structure.
Even Hamlet waits until he's literally dying. He has been fatally poisoned. He has minutes to live before he finally kills the king.
He only acts when he has nothing left to lose, when the interim is gone and all his options have been stripped away.
This feels uncomfortably familiar. We obviously aren't in Elizabethan Denmark, but these structures, these patterns, they feel very current. Let's talk about the present-day implications.
Absolutely. The air ass, the curtain Polonius hides behind, And his whole spying apparatus are the perfect metaphors for modern digital surveillance cultures.
I was thinking about this when you mentioned the performance aspect. If I'm at work and I know my company is monitoring my Slack messages or my emails,
Exactly. Do you speak honestly? Do you voice dissent? Or do you perform good employee?
I perform.
Yeah.
I use a lot more exclamation points. I say great idea. Even if it's a terrible idea, I manage my own perception.
That is the antic disposition of the corporate world. When you know that your emails might be read or your data tracked, genuine risk-taking vanishes.
Yeah.
We get performative compliance instead of genuine innovation or honesty. Just like Hamlet, we present the curated, safe version of ourselves to the system.
And what about the information overload? Hamlet suffering from the pale cast of thought.
It's a dead ringer for modern analysis paralysis. We live in a world of infinite data. But just like Hamlet with the ghost, we also deal with infinite misinformation, deepfakes, conflicting sources, ghosts in machine.
So we have all this data, but we can't verify what's true. It reminds me of doom scrolling during a crisis. You keep reading, looking for the one article that will give you certainty, but all you find are more questions and more anxiety.
And when you can't verify truth, taking decisive action feels impossible. It feels safer to wait for one more report, one more study. We delay, thinking we're being rational, but really we're just paralyzed by information asymmetry.
Then there's the erosion of legitimacy. We see institutions that rely on habit, customs, costumes, titles, the way things have always been done, rather than on merit or truth.
And eventually, they face a Hamlet moment. The younger generation looks at the institution, whether it's a government, a university, or a legacy media company, and realizes the garden is unweeded. The people in charge are there because they played the political game, not because they are Hyperions. Their authority is based on position, not legitimacy.
And the system's reaction is usually to double down on the Polonius approach.
Yes, systems often reward the Polonius type, the cautious, bureaucratic, process-oriented manager who minimizes risk, and they punish the Hamlet type, the one who questions, who disrupts, who points out the rod. This leads to institutional stagnation. The system protects itself from the very people who might point out the fundamental flaws.
Which brings us back to the core mission of crisis and perception. We need to distinguish between system and individual blame. This feels like the perfect case study for that.
This is critical. We spend centuries blaming Hamlet for waiting. Why didn't you just kill him in the chapel? But this analysis suggests that in a system where the fountains of justice are poisoned, an individual cannot execute justice through standard means.
If the judge is the murderer, you can't file a lawsuit. You can't appeal to a higher authority because there isn't one.
Exactly. The paralysis is a structural outcome of a corrupted hierarchy, not just a personal failing of Hamlet's personality. The system was designed, intentionally or not, to prevent anyone from doing exactly what Hamlet needed to do. Claudius is a master of perception management, and he has made direct action impossible.
So bringing it all home to the conclusion, the source highlights Hamlet's shift in the final act. It's a huge change in his thinking. He goes from, why do I delay, to the readiness is all.
It's a profound philosophical shift. After a sea voyage, after escaping the death warrant from Claudius and seeing the pirate battle, Hamlet changes. He seems to surrender to a larger force. He realizes that in a system where you cannot control the outcome, he says, our thoughts are ours, their ends none of our own, the only mastery available is internal, acceptance of mortality and uncertainty. If it be now, 'tis not to come. If it be not to come, it will be now. If it be not now, yet it will come. The readiness is all. He stops trying to engineer the perfect revenge with perfect certainty and just accepts that the opportunity will present itself, and he must be ready to act when it does.
And the final system state, that pile of bodies.
A corrupt system that refuses to process truth. In this case, the truth of the old king's murder will eventually process bodies instead.
That is a chilling thought. Say that again.
A system that cannot process truth will eventually process bodies. It is the ultimate lesson of the play structure. You can hide the rot, you can paint over it, you can spy on the people pointing it out, but you cannot make the system healthy. And when a system prioritizes its own survival over its legitimacy, it is actually prioritizing its own inevitable, violent destruction.
It crashes. And Fortinbras, the man of action who doesn't think, walks in to pick up the pieces.
Every time.
This project is free and publicly accessible. If you'd like to support the time, tools, and research behind Crisis and Perception, you can become a supporter on Patreon.
For a shorter visual overview of this topic, see the mini explainer linked in the description.
If you enjoy this kind of systems-level analysis, please like, subscribe, and comment with books or topics you'd like us to explore next.